Tom Bower just ignited a firestorm that could permanently redefine Meghan Markle's legacy, and this time, the allegations aren't whispers, they're strategic, documented, and aimed straight at the heart of her carefully built image. The first crack didn't come quietly. It detonated when Tom Bower publicly revisited long-circulating rumors about Meghan Markle's early years navigating elite social circles. It wasn't framed as gossip. It was framed as pattern. And that distinction is everything. Within minutes of his remarks surfacing, the internet did what it always does: it split. Supporters called it character assassination. Critics called it long overdue scrutiny. But the real shift wasn't in the noise. It was in the tone. This didn't feel like a tabloid flare-up. It felt investigative, structured, intentional, and that's why it mattered. Because Meghan's entire post-royal identity has been built on authenticity, a narrative of principled independence. A woman who walked away from monarchy to protect her mental health. A humanitarian voice. A modern reformer. That image is not accidental. It has been carefully shaped through interviews, documentaries, keynote speeches, and controlled media appearances alongside Prince Harry. So when Bower reintroduced allegations suggesting she strategically positioned herself within ultra-wealthy, invitation-only circles before meeting Harry, the implication wasn't about yachts or parties. It was about intent. Was her rise organic or engineered? That question alone reshaped the conversation. Bower, known for methodical sourcing and structured biographies, didn't present the claims as scandalous spectacle. He presented them as behavioral consistency. He suggested that Meghan understood proximity to power and leveraged it. That framing changes everything. Because ambition is not scandalous in Hollywood. Strategy is not criminal. But contradiction is corrosive. A race where the tension deepens. For years, Meghan publicly stated she knew little about the British royal family before meeting Harry. She described herself as an outsider, unfamiliar with protocol, unprepared for scrutiny. That narrative was central to their joint interview with Oprah Winfrey, an interview that redefined their public position against the monarchy. But Bower's commentary introduces a conflicting suggestion that research and long-term fascination with royal culture may have existed earlier than acknowledged. If that contradiction holds weight, it doesn't just challenge a memory, it challenges credibility. And credibility is currency. Another rehook begins to surface here because this isn't just about Meghan. It's about Harry. If, as Bower implies, Meghan was deeply aware of royal hierarchy and dynamics, then the question becomes unavoidable. Was Prince Harry the singular romantic destiny she described, or part of a broader aspiration toward institutional proximity? That implication lands heavily, especially considering Harry's own memoir, Spare, where he detailed lifelong feelings of being secondary within the royal structure. The irony is impossible to ignore. Public sympathy once aligned strongly behind the Sussexes. They were seen as challengers of an outdated system. But now, a reframed lens is being applied not by tabloids alone, but by a biographer with a track record of documented deep dives. And hey, race, what makes this moment pivotal? Bower cannot be easily dismissed as anonymous rumor. His books rely on named sources and layered documentation. Whether one agrees with his conclusions or not, the format forces engagement. That's why the internet reaction has felt different this time. It's less explosive outrage, more forensic re-examination. Old interviews are resurfacing. Statements are being re-evaluated. Timelines are being reconstructed. Not because a scandal broke, but because doubt was introduced. And doubt, once seated, grows quietly. But this is only the surface layer, because what follows next isn't about past circles or social positioning. It's about hierarchy, and a revelation involving Prince William that, if explored further, could alter the emotional core of this entire story. Because the most explosive implication in Tom Bower's commentary wasn't about social circles or Hollywood ambition. It was about hierarchy inside the royal family, and where Meghan Markle may have initially focused her attention. According to interpretations circulating after Bower's analysis, Meghan understood the structure of the monarchy far more clearly than she publicly suggested. And if she understood the structure, then she understood the ranking. At the top stood Prince William, the future king. Next in line, Prince Harry. The distinction matters. Not emotionally, institutionally. Now pause here because this is where the narrative shifts from rumor to psychological weight. Bowers' suggestion, subtle but potent, implies that Meghan may have recognized the value of proximity to the heir long before her relationship with Harry became public. There is no confirmed evidence of pursuit, no documented approach, but the framing alone changes perception. If someone understands royal ranking, if someone is strategically minded, if someone is ambitious within elite circles, then the question naturally emerges: was Harry always the intended destination? Or was he the accessible one? That single question has ignited more debate than any yacht rumor ever could. Because this doesn't just challenge Meghan's authenticity, it strikes directly at Harry's lifelong insecurity. In his memoir Spare, Harry openly detailed what it felt like to grow up as the spare, the backup, the second son, the prince without the crown. That identity shaped him. It haunted him. It defined him. So if public conversation begins suggesting that even in romance he was a secondary option, that implication carries emotional gravity. And Harry's the rehook. Perception moves faster than proof. Within hours of these interpretations spreading, social media began reframing their entire love story. Clips from their engagement interview resurfaced. Body language breakdowns circulated. Moments once viewed as romantic were reanalyzed under a harsher lens. When Meghan previously said she didn't know much about the royal family before meeting Harry, critics now contrast that with Bowers' suggestion of deeper awareness. When Harry described their meeting as organic and serendipitous, skeptics ask whether fate or foresight played the larger role. No new evidence surfaced. But narrative reframing doesn't require new evidence. It requires contradiction. And contradiction is powerful. Harry's why this section matters beyond celebrity intrigue. The Sussex brand, since stepping back from royal duties, has been built on a central emotional pillar: authenticity. Their departure from the monarchy was framed as a moral stand, a rejection of hierarchy, a fight for independence and mental health. But if public belief shifts toward the idea that hierarchy may have once been part of the ambition, that emotional foundation cracks. Not collapses, cracks. And cracks spread. Another subtle shift is happening in tone. This isn't the explosive anger that followed the interview with Oprah Winfrey. It's quieter, analytical. People aren't reacting emotionally, they're reassessing historically. And reassessment lingers longer than outrage. But Harry's the crucial tension. Bowers has not presented courtroom proof of pursuit. What he has presented is character analysis, a pattern of calculated social movement. And when that pattern is placed beside royal hierarchy, it creates a narrative that feels plausible to some. Plausibility is enough to shift perception. And perception, in Hollywood and royalty alike, determines influence. But this hierarchy question is only the emotional middle layer, because beneath it lies something even more consequential. If Meghan studied royal structure, if she understood Harry's vulnerabilities, if she knew the emotional weight of being the spare, was love spontaneous or strategically aligned?
The fact that I fell in love with Meghan so incredibly quickly was sort of confirmation to me that everything, all the stars were aligned, everything was just perfect. It was this beautiful woman just sort of literally tripped and fell into my life. I fell into her life.
If the hierarchy question unsettled the narrative, this next layer destabilizes it. Because the most consequential implication circulating from Tom Bowers' analysis isn't about status. It's about psychology. According to Bowers' broader portrait of Meghan Markle, she was not passive in her relationships or career progression. He describes her as observant, adaptive, strategic, someone who studies environments before stepping into them. Now place that characterization beside Prince Harry's publicly known vulnerabilities. A prince shaped by trauma, a son who lost his mother, Princess Diana, in a global tragedy, a royal who openly detailed emotional struggles in his memoir Spare, a man who repeatedly expressed feeling unseen within the monarchy. If someone understood that emotional landscape in advance, the dynamic changes. Harry's the rehook. What if the connection wasn't accidental chemistry, but calibrated compatibility? Bowers' critics argue he overstates intentionality. His supporters argue he identifies patterns others ignore. But what cannot be denied is this: Harry's deepest insecurities were not secrets. They were public knowledge long before Meghan entered the picture. His devotion to his mother's legacy, his commitment to humanitarian work in Africa, his resentment toward tabloid intrusion, his complicated relationship with royal hierarchy. Those traits were documented for years. If someone researched him even casually, those elements would stand out immediately. Now contrast that with the couple's original public narrative. In their engagement interview, Meghan described not Googling Harry. She framed their first dates as blind discovery. She positioned herself as unaware of royal mechanics. It was a compelling story, a modern fairy tale untouched by calculation. But Bauer's interpretation introduces a different possibility: preparation. He suggests Meghan understood Harry's emotional blueprint before their relationship became serious. That she recognized his longing for a partner who empathized deeply with his mother's legacy. That she aligned herself with his philanthropic passions quickly and seamlessly. Now, to be clear, emotional intelligence in a relationship is not manipulation. Shared values are not strategy. Many couples connect precisely because they understand one another's wounds. But the tension lies in timing. Did alignment happen organically after falling in love? Or was alignment part of why the connection accelerated so quickly? That's the question fueling debate. And debate fuels scrutiny. Another rehook emerges here. If this relationship was strategically aware from the beginning, then every milestone takes on new weight. The rapid courtship, the speed of engagement, the intensity of public defense against media narratives, the decision to step back from royal duties in what became known as Megxit. Each moment now becomes subject to reinterpretation. Even the landmark interview with Oprah Winfrey is being revisited. What once appeared as raw vulnerability is now being analyzed for narrative cohesion. Viewers are rewatching pauses, word choices, emotional beats, not because new facts emerged, but because doubt reframes memory. And hey, race, why this matters beyond celebrity fascination. Public trust operates on consistency. When public figures present version A of their origin story, and a biographer presents version B supported by long-form research, audiences instinctively look for overlap or contradiction. Contradiction creates erosion. Erosion doesn't happen overnight. It accumulates. In Hollywood, perception is leverage. In royalty, perception is legitimacy. Meghan and Harry straddle both worlds. That makes them uniquely vulnerable to narrative shifts. Now consider the broader implication. If Meghan did understand Harry's emotional scars deeply from the start, then one could argue she offered him exactly what he needed: empathy, validation, partnership. But critics counter with a sharper angle. What if understanding became influence? That distinction is subtle but powerful, and it leads directly into Section 4. Because the psychological debate is no longer confined to their early romance. It's now influencing Hollywood perception, media alliances, and the sustainability of their global brand. The love story question was personal. The fallout question is institutional. And institutions do not move based on romance. They move based on risk.
They didn't want him to be a prince or a princess, not knowing what the gender would be, which would be different from protocol, and that he wasn't going to receive security.
The emotional debate is one thing. Institutional risk is another. Because while the public dissects psychology and hierarchy, Hollywood evaluates something far colder: liability. When Meghan Markle and Prince Harry stepped back from royal duties, they didn't just leave a family institution, they entered a corporate ecosystem. Streaming platforms, production contracts, brand partnerships, multi-million-dollar expectations. That ecosystem runs on perception stability. For a time, the Sussexes were positioned as disruptive but profitable. Their interview with Oprah Winfrey drew global attention. Their Netflix projects generated conversation. Harry's memoir Spare shattered sales records. Controversy, when controlled, can be monetized, but sustained narrative instability cannot. Hey, race, the rehook. The problem isn't scandal, it's unpredictability. Since Tom Bauer reintroduced structured allegations and character critiques, the conversation has shifted from sympathy to skepticism. And skepticism spreads differently than outrage. It lingers in boardrooms. It appears in risk assessments. It influences deal renewals. Executives do not ask, "Is this rumor true?" They ask, "Will this become a distraction?" If public confidence in authenticity weakens, brand alignment weakens. If internal royal hierarchy speculation continues to circulate, It complicates Harry's positioning as an independent humanitarian voice. If questions around strategic narrative management intensify, media partnerships become cautious. Hollywood tolerates ambition. It tolerates reinvention. It does not tolerate uncontrollable narrative drift. And a race where the power balance quietly shifts. For years, Meghan and Harry were seen as masters of narrative control. They chose when to speak, where to appear, which platform to use. They redefined their exit from royal life on their own terms. But a biographer operates differently. Bauer does not require cooperation. He does not need interviews. He does not depend on access granted by the Sussex camp. His leverage is documentation and time. That asymmetry matters. If Meghan responds publicly, it fuels further examination. If she remains silent, speculation calcifies. If Harry defends the relationship forcefully, it risks reinforcing the very hierarchy insecurity discussed in Section 2. It becomes a strategic stalemate. Another rehook emerges here. This is no longer about whether allegations are proven. It's about narrative momentum. Momentum determines headlines. Headlines shape perception. Perception shapes opportunity. And opportunity is currency in both Hollywood and humanitarian influence. The Sussex brand was built on reinvention, stepping away from tradition to build something modern, independent, principled. Now, the question quietly circulating isn't whether they can survive criticism. It's whether they can stabilize identity. Because in a media environment that never pauses, instability compounds. And compounded instability reshapes legacy. Which brings us to the larger frame. This story was never just about yacht rumors or royal hierarchy. It was about narrative control and who truly holds it now.
I need to do this for my family. This is not a surprise to anybody. It's really sad that it's got to this point, but I've got to do something for my own mental health, for my wife's, and for Archie's as well, because I could see where this was headed.
Every modern public figure lives inside a constructed story. For Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, that story was powerful, love-defying tradition, independence over institution, compassion over hierarchy. It resonated globally. But narratives are fragile architecture. They rely on consistency, on emotional coherence, on trust. Tom Bauer did not introduce criminal accusations. He introduced reinterpretation. And reinterpretation is often more destabilizing than scandal. Because scandal can be denied. Reinterpretation forces reflection. If Meghan was strategic, is that ambition or manipulation? If Harry was emotionally understood, was that love or alignment? If hierarchy awareness existed, does that negate authenticity? There are no definitive answers here, only competing narratives. And that is what makes this moment significant. The Sussex story may not be collapsing. It may be evolving from fairy tale to case study in media power, perception economics, and the volatility of modern reputation. The real question is not whether they can respond. It's whether the public has already decided what to believe. And once belief settles, even truth struggles to move it.
If you enjoy in-depth coverage of the stories shaping celebrity culture and entertainment, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay connected for the next big story.